Rain lashed against the cafe window, blurring the neon glow of the city outside. Inside, Clara nursed a lukewarm cup of coffee, the bitterness mirroring the sting of her recent dismissal. Her supervisor, Dr. Evans, had never appreciated her outspoken nature, and a minor disagreement over a patient's medication had finally pushed him over the edge. Insubordination, he'd called it, his face pinched with righteous anger. Clara, known for her dedication, felt a hollowness settle in her stomach. Being a nurse wasn't just a job, it was her calling. Now, it was gone. Across the table, a man with eyes the color of faded denim sat huddled in a threadbare coat. He hadn't spoken a word, but Clara couldn't help noticing his quiet dignity. When their eyes met, a flicker of understanding passed between them, the unspoken language of those facing hardship. Unable to hold back the tears stinging her eyes, Clara excused herself and made her way to the restroom. Splashing cold water on her face, she tried to gather herself. As she stepped out, the man was gone. Disappointment pricked at her. A chance encounter, a fleeting moment of connection, lost, just like her career. Returning to her table, she found a steaming cup of coffee waiting. Confused, she looked around, then spotted a crumpled napkin beside it. Unfolding it, she saw a few words scrawled neatly, "Tough day?" Sometimes, a stranger's kindness can make all the difference. A warmth spread through her, chasing away the chill that had settled deep inside. She finished the coffee, the simple act a comfort. Leaving the cafe, she braced herself for the rain. The man was huddled in the doorway of a nearby bookstore, his coat offering meager protection from the downpour. Hesitantly, Clara approached him. "Excuse me," she began, her voice barely a whisper. The man looked up, his eyes filled with a weary kindness. "Lost, are you?" he asked gently. "No," Clara stammered. I saw you in the cafe. Thank you for the coffee." He smiled faintly. "Just returning the favor. Seems like we both needed a bit of warmth today." Their conversation started tentatively, a nervous dance around shared vulnerabilities. She learned his name was Ethan, and the life etched on his face spoke volumes before he uttered a word. A layoff, a bad divorce, a downward spiral, a story tragically familiar in the unforgiving city. Clara, in turn, shared her heartbreak about being fired. To her surprise, Ethan listened patiently, nodding in understanding. "They don't know what they're missing," he finally said, a quiet strength in his voice. "A good nurse is a treasure." His words, devoid of pity, resonated within her. They talked for a while longer, sharing stories and finding solace in unexpected companionship. As the rain subsided, painting the city streets with an ethereal glow, Clara knew this wasn't a chance encounter. It was a connection forged in the crucible of hardship. Days turned into weeks. Clara, unable to find another job, began volunteering at a local free clinic. Ethan, with his sharp mind and quick wit, proved a valuable companion. He helped organize patient records, his experience in data entry coming in handy. "You're a natural at this," a grateful nurse commented one day, oblivious to Ethan's past. Clara's heart swelled with a bittersweet pride. Ethan, however, remained silent, his gaze fixed on the bustling clinic scene. One evening, as they sat by the river, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Ethan broke the silence. "I saw a flyer today at the library," he began hesitantly. "About a program that helps people get back on their feet. Job training, housing. It could be a chance, Clara." Clara looked at him, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling within her. Joy, fear, and a pang of guilt, because the program required a stable home address, something she lacked after losing her apartment. Ethan, sensing her turmoil, reached out and gently placed a hand on hers. "It doesn't have to be the end of things, Clara. There are ways." His words held a veiled suggestion, but Clara couldn't bring herself to voice it. The idea of living with a homeless man, a kind stranger, felt both bizarre and strangely comforting. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Clara confessed her financial woes to a sympathetic friend who, to her surprise, offered a spare room in her small apartment. Ethan, with the help of the program, secured a job as a library assistant, his love for books shining through. The night they moved into the apartment, a tentative hope fluttered in the air. Ethan, freshly showered and his worn clothes replaced with hand-me-downs from Clara's friend, seemed years younger. He looked at her with a shy smile, the rain-washed denim of his eyes sparkling. "This is unreal," Clara whispered, the simple act of having a roof over their heads feeling like a miracle. Their new life wasn't without its challenges. Sharing a space meant navigating personal boundaries. Clara, accustomed to her own routines, found herself adjusting to Ethan's quiet reading habits in the evenings and his early morning walks. He, in turn, learned to navigate the unspoken rules of shared living, respecting space, coordinating chores. But the challenges paled in comparison to the warmth that grew between them. They cooked simple meals together, laughter echoing in the small kitchen. Ethan would regale her with stories of his travels before his life unraveled, his voice animated. Clara, in turn, shared her hopes of returning to nursing, her passion reignited. One evening, as they sat huddled on the worn couch, Ethan surprised her by pulling out a worn copy of Gray's Anatomy. "Been brushing up," he confessed sheepishly. Clara stared at him, her heart skipping a beat. "Ethan, you don't have to do this." "I want to," he said, his gaze unwavering. "This program helps with certification too." "Maybe." His voice trailed off. The unspoken desire hung heavy in the air. Maybe they could return to the field together, a nurse and her unlikely partner, a team forged in the crucible of hardship. Tears welled up in Clara's eyes. "Ethan," she choked out, "you're incredible." He reached out, gently wiping away a tear with his calloused thumb. Their eyes met, the unspoken question hanging between them. The line between friendship and something more had blurred, and neither of them seemed to want to rush. One rainy afternoon, a frantic call from the clinic shattered their peaceful routine. A nurse was down with the flu, and they were short-staffed. Despair washed over Clara. Without a job, she couldn't volunteer anymore. Ethan, sensing her dejection, placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let me try something," he said, a determined glint in his eyes. He dialed a number he'd found at the program, explaining the situation. Clara listened, a knot of worry tightening in her stomach. "She has the experience and the passion," Ethan argued, his voice firm. "Give her a chance." Clara held her breath, her heart pounding as she listened to the response on the other end. Finally, Ethan hung up, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. "They'll take you on as a temporary replacement," he announced, his voice filled with excitement. "Just until they find someone permanent, but it's a start." Clara threw her arms around him, tears of relief and gratitude streaming down her face. It wasn't a solution, but it was a lifeline. The following days were a whirlwind of activity for Clara. Back at the clinic, she was met with smiles and warm welcomes. Her skills, honed by years of experience, shone through. Patients commented on her gentle touch and calming presence. One evening, as she arrived home exhausted but exhilarated, she found a simple bouquet of lilies on the table. A card attached read, "Proud of you. Always. Ethan." Their time together as roommates, colleagues, and something blossoming in between them became a precious secret. They found solace in shared meals, stolen glances across crowded hallways at the clinic, and late-night conversations where dreams were whispered and fears laid bare. But the temporary position loomed large. One day, the clinic director called Clara into his office. His face was grim. "Clara," he began, "you've been a valuable asset these past few weeks. But we have a full-time candidate lined up." Clara's stomach lurched. Disappointment clawed at her, but this time, it was tinged with something else, a fear of losing Ethan, the man who had become more than a roommate. As she left the office, dejected, she found Ethan waiting by the door. His expression mirrored her own. "So," he said, his voice strained, "what now?" Clara looked at him, her eyes filled with unshed tears. "I don't know," she confessed, her voice cracking. Suddenly, a voice boomed from behind them. The clinic director stood there, a peculiar smile on his face. "Wait," he said, "before you head out, there's something else I need to discuss." Clara and Ethan exchanged confused glances. What else could there be? As you know, the director continued, we've been looking for a nurse educator for a while now. Someone to mentor new graduates, pass on their knowledge and experience. Someone with Clara's dedication and passion for the field. Clara's jaw dropped. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. The director chuckled at their stunned expressions. We noticed how you took the initiative to train and guide our new volunteer, Sarah, he elaborated, gesturing towards a young woman standing shyly in the doorway. It seems you have a knack for nurturing talent. The weight of the conversation shifted. This wasn't rejection, it was an opportunity, a different path. For a moment, Clara felt torn. Returning to direct patient care had been her dream. But the idea of shaping future nurses, of leaving a legacy, resonated deeply. Ethan, sensing her internal struggle, squeezed her hand gently. It's up to you, Clara, he whispered, his voice laced with a quiet understanding. Clara looked at him, a silent conversation passing between them. They had come so far together, navigating loss, rebuilding their lives. Perhaps this wasn't just about her, it was about building something new, something they could share. Turning back to the director, a newfound resolve hardened her voice. I'd be honored to consider the position, she said, her gaze meeting Ethan's with a shared determination. The following months were a whirlwind of change. Clara threw herself into her new role, her passion for nursing channeled into the next generation. Ethan, thriving in his library job, became her biggest supporter. They didn't rush into anything. Their shared journey, their unique bond, had laid a strong foundation for something deeper. One evening, as they sat on the fire escape overlooking the city lights, Ethan surprised her with a picnic basket. For celebrating success, however you define it, he announced with a playful smile. As they spread the simple meal on a checkered cloth, an unspoken question hung in the air. Finally, Ethan reached for her hand, his eyes reflecting the city lights. Clara, he began, his voice low and warm, we've built something special here. Where do we go from here? Clara looked into his eyes, their depths holding the story of their unconventional journey. A smile touched her lips. Maybe, she said, her voice filled with a quiet hope, we build a home together, this time, brick by brick. Their story, born from hardship and unexpected connection, took a new turn. The nurse and the formerly homeless man, united by kindness and shared resilience, were ready to write a new chapter, a testament to the strength found in unexpected places, a love story that defied definition, and the surprise no one expected. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. This other story on your screen will also move you.